Vamos a empezar aquí con la grabación. We're going to start with the recording. Oh, I hope that did not bump somebody off. It might have. You know, I hit one button and I never know if it's my end or your end. Here we go. Aquí vamos. Here we go. Bienvenidos y bienvenidas a buenos días. ¿Cómo están ustedes? ¿Cómo están todos? How's everybody? ¿Bien?
Bien.
Más o menos, más o menos a veces, yeah, sometimes if you're so, it's más o menos, más o menos. Does anybody ever want to hear, you know, mal, I'm terrible today? Yeah, no. Some days we are though. I mean, the honest to God truth. Okay, ¿qué vamos a hacer? What are we going to do? Today we're going to do more numbers practice yet again, because numbers is truly a survival thing. You know, for pricing, for, you know, especially for pricing, especially for shopping and for quoting prices to people. So we're going to, you know, devote a decent chunk of our time to still numbers. A little bit higher up, we're going to do another dictado, very, very short dictation. So you will want to have, you know, your crummy little throw it away piece of paper that you can just, you know, and something to write with that you can just jot down. Nothing serious, but just to test your listening comprehension. We're also going to practice with this verb ser. So I'm going to preview, actually, I'm going to preview so you can gather things before we start up. You will want, yes. If you printed this out, you may want to have it handy. I think I gave this to you in the email homework. This is the hundreds, but not getting into the multiple hundreds, yeah? So what we're going to be doing is pairing the 100 word with the teens, yeah? So, you know, when you first learn this, the basis is the 1 through 10, because you keep repeating those numbers over and over again. And then we move up to the double digit. And now we're going to combine the double digit numbers with the hundreds. And we will preview a little bit, and I'll give you some extra work with the multiple hundreds, you know, and wow, Shalise, that will be important for you to know with your business. So you may want to have that handy. You will also, where to go? Aquí, I had given you this. If you have this handy, you will want to pull it up. This little practice I gave you on the forms of ser. Forms of ser, to be, okay? And whether you pull it up on a screen as a, you know, 2 screens that you've split is fine, or if you printed it out. So if you have those printed off, and give, this is your preview to let you know, kind of make sure you got it handy. We are going to practice ser. We are going to practice a little bit with estar. And, you know, why do we have these 2 verbs for to be? We'll talk a little bit about that. And one thing you may have noticed if you started chapter 4 last week to prep with the vocabulary on la casa, because we're going to hopefully carve out some time for la casa, just vocabulary work. They started to introduce another verb, yet another verb, which is tener, to have. And you probably saw the word tengo, which means I have. So we'll probably not practice tener a lot, but just introduce why we want that verb, why we need that verb, why it's important, and step harder into that process next week. A quick reminder before we start our numbers practice, quick reminder is that if you're looking to sign up for fall for any classes at all, whether it's mine or something else with Scottsdale, sign up for fall session. I should say fall sessions. There are 2 fall sessions, not 1, but 2. They split it into 2 segments because snowbirds. So sign up for fall. Registration for fall sessions begins next week, Monday, 26th, for Scottsdale residents, 8 a.m. online. Because seriously, why do you want to go down to the center? You know, they're kind of locked up unless you're in a class anyway. So online, if you need more information on that, let me know.
Can you just send us an email of what the next sequence for this class would be with you? That would be great.
Absolutely, absolutely. When you sign up for fall, there is, if you want to do like all of fall, you have to sign 2 registrations, which is, I know, weird, but it's the way it's set up. So just so that you know that it's, you know, it runs September through like Halloween, and then picks up November 1st through just before Christmas. So that's how the split with fall is divvied up. Okay, and it's all online for me. I'm one of the few still staying online because, yeah, well, I'm living with 4 people. I got to keep everybody safe in my household. Okay, aquí vamos. Números. Primero. First. I want to see if you have any questions. I always like to ask if you have any questions first.
Marilyn, how do we know if we passed your class, this one?
Oh, pass, come on. This is not even high school.
And then we could go on to the next one, right? If we pass yours.
Right, basically we bump people, you know, yes, what I should say, gracias, Roger, thank you. When this class that is Tuesday mornings is always strictly the exact same stuff over and over again. So it's always the same information. I have to assume that people start from absolutely nothing, okay? So if you sign up for Tuesday morning, it's going to be the same exact thing over. I have had people who've done that, but not too many. Generally, people move into the Monday class. From here, they sign up for the Monday class, which is called Spanish for Beginners Step 2. Step 2, because there are people who are not super confident with all verbs, but we just always take a different topic every week and, you know, do various kinds of practice. So that's why it's called Step 2. So, gracias, thank you for reminding me. You know, basically, you sign up for the next level up, the Step 2 segment. Okay. Bien.
A question.
Sí, dime.
With soy and estar, if soy or ser y estar, and ser is sort of temporary, what if you're disciplining your child? Does the behavior become temporary with the child, or does it become, hold on. Or
okay.
Is it?
Well, you've got it twisted around just a little bit. I'll tell you how. Ser tends to be permanent. And estar, but I have to say tends to be, because when you're thinking in English terms, a lot of times we think, well, that's permanent, but in Spanish, it really isn't. So we're going to pare it down to a much easier, like 50-50 kind of rule, you know, like, because there are many rules with when to use ser and when to use estar, but that can get you muckied up deep in the weeds, deeper than you need to be for a beginner. So what you want to do is, like, you know, a 50-50 situation, pare it down to as much as we can there. Ser tends to be for things that are more permanent. Let us call it hard to change. Estar tends to be for things that are easily changeable, but I'm going to have an easier way for you to think about it than that, okay? So we'll get to that in a bit. I want to see first if you've got any questions about the numbers video that this guy gave you. And he had a little quizzes at the end where he would say a number and he would ask you, you know, is this correct for the number you see? So if you did not watch this, because I know sometimes people get caught up, you got work to do. This is not the only thing you're doing with your day, good heavens. If you did not watch this, do go through it, because not only does he review all of those numbers, but he gives you little ability to do a listening quiz, okay? Did you have any questions about anything that he presented on numbers, anything number related? because we are going to get to ser estar as well, but this, no, nada. It's a matter of practice usually at this stage. Okay, bien. So we're done with that part of it. We are going to switch my screens. So I've got everything up where I need to be. A lot of you recorded your numbers. Gracias, thank you very much. Are 40 and up. Let's begin with some practice with double-digit numbers. Precios. I'm going to type in the chat box, so make sure you turn on your chat box. I'm going to type the question again because it's got you're going to either hear cuánto cuesta if it's a onesie singular item, or you're going to hear the question if it's a plural item. ¿Cuánto cuestan? ¿Cuánto cuesta? With the cuesta, that's the costs word. ¿Cuánto cuesta? How much does it cost? It's one thing. Or ¿cuánto cuestan? How much do they cost? And they cost is cuestan. And notice, whenever we talk about more than one item, they cost. Those verbs are always 100%, even if they're irregulars, they're going to end in the letter N. N, an N sound. They're all going to do that. So, ¿cuánto cuesta or cuánto cuestan? Okay. A ver. Vamos a ver aquí los precios. We're going to take a look at some prices of things. And I'm going to make this bigger so that you don't have to squint a whole lot. ¿Cuánto cuestan? ¿Cuánto cuestan? ¿Cuánto cuestan? Este precio, this price here. ¿Cuánto cuestan? ¿Cuánto cuestan? Don't worry about the cents. Just worry about the dollars. Dólares.
89.
89. Muy bien, muy bien. 80. Cuestan, they cost. Cuestan 89. Aquí. Estos sartenes, these pots and pans things, see? Estas ollas, these pans. ¿Cuánto cuestan? Now we've got 100 number. Ciento. This will start with ciento. ¿Cuánto cuestan?
129.
Perfecto, 129. Cuestan, they cost. Cuestan 129. 129. Whenever I have something in the hundreds, anything that is 101 and up goes to a longer word, ciento, with a to at the end, ciento. Okay, vale? Ciento, and then we just tag on the 29 to the end of it. ¿Cuánto cuestan? ¿Cuánto cuestan? How much do these cost? ¿Cómo se dice 79? Cuestan. You'll have the T from siete. It'll be minus the I. Pueden ver, can you see this or is it not showing up? Oh, and Mary, you're on mute.
Are you pointing to the red copper one?
CCC, red
Okay,
copper.
because it wasn't before. Okay, so that is 79.
79. Cuestan, they cost. Cuestan 79. Cuestan 79. Muy bien, muy bien. ¿Cuánto cuestan estos? Sí. La marca Rachel Ray, la marca brand. La marca Rachel Ray, ¿cuánto cuestan?
Cuestan 8.9.
89, muy bien. Baratos, baratos, cheap, cheap, cheap. ¿Cuánto cuestan los cuchillos? ¿Cuánto cuestan? ¿Cuestan?
139.
Oh, estos, these, sí, 139, 139. Estos aquí, these here, dice Chicago Cutlery. La marca Chicago Cutlery. ¿Cuánto cuestan?
Are you, it's not pointing in the, and are you asking for the 119.99 one?
Sí, 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 sí.
Okay, because the pointer's not
Oh,
there.
okay. You might not be able to see my cursor. Sí, Chicago Cutlery. Cuestan
119.
119. Perfecto. Okay. Calphalon, aquí. A la derecha, the one way at the right. A la derecha, at the right.
169.
Perfecto. 169, 160. And I could hear the nice, clear double S, 60. 169. Muy bien, muy bien. Y aquí, Farberware, a la izquierda, way at the left, a la izquierda.
29.
29, fácil, 29, 29. Perfecto, perfecto. Ok, vamos a ver. Otras cosas, other things here. Pack and play, pack and play. ¿Cuánto cuesta? ¿Cuánto cuesta? A little playpen.
49.
49, sí, cuesta, it costs, because it's now one thing. Cuesta 49, 49. Aquí, this one right here, a little car seat. A la derecha, they have the nice car seat, the expensive car seat. Muy caro, very expensive.
So is that the one at the upper right?
Upper right.
174.
Y cuatro, perfecto. 174. And the stroller down here at the bottom. ¿Cuánto cuesta? ¿Cuánto cuesta?
69.
69. Perfecto, perfecto. Muy bien. A ver. Bueno. A ver, let's take a look at our number set now, okay? So we're going to fill in some of these blanks. So we're going to do some 100 and then combine the 100 with a double digit number. We start with 100, which has that truncated thing, only because it's 100. Anything higher, you go into the longer form word. So 100, 101, 102, 103. ¿Cómo se dice 104?
104.
104. 110.
110.
110, perfecto. ¿Cómo se dice 111?
108.
111 is 11.
11.
111. I'm going to make this a little bigger. 111. ¿Cómo se dice 115?
115.
15, right.
15,
Remember, it's keen. Yeah. 115. ¿Cómo se dice 119?
110. nuevos.
Y nueve, nueve.
Nueve.
But you're getting good. You're not saying nuevo. Okay, that is a step up, right? Nueve. 119, 119. And so they're going to mark these up so that they're not exactly all in order, so that we've got to think a little bit harder, right? 120, 121, 122. ¿Cómo se dice 125?
125.
125, perfecto. ¿Cómo se dice 128?
128.
128. Then they give us 130. 131. ¿Cómo se dice 132?
132.
132, perfecto. 136.
136.
Y 6, 136. And the E only comes in with that very last digit. If the very last digit is more than 0, you'll hear an E and the number, okay? But otherwise you won't hear the E. You've got to have a digit in this very last part. So notice it's never 130 y, no. Or 131, no. The E only comes in when we've got something higher than 0 in that last digit place. So kind of notice that. Okay, 137. 137.
137.
137, perfecto, sí. 140, notice no E because I've got a 0 in the last digit marker space. And now 141, 141, 141. ¿Cómo se dice 145?
145.
145, perfecto. ¿Cómo se dice 149?
149.
9, perfecto. Bueno, now no E word because my last digit marker is a 0. 150, 150. Bien, ok, vale. 152. ¿Cómo se dice 154?
154.
154, ok. ¿Cómo se dice 155?
155.
Y 5, perfecto. ¿Cómo se dice 159?
159.
Perfecto. Bueno, ¿cómo se dice 16? Oh, no, we got it. Lo tenemos. We got it. 160, 161, 164.
164.
Perfecto. ¿Cómo se dice 167?
167.
7, perfecto, bien, bien. And you'll notice, you know, that when your mind goes into a little hitch, that's pretty normal, right? Don't feel like, oh gosh, I'm deficient. No, because your brain is going through all these numbers that they're used to doing in English. You're plugging it into the Spanish instead. 170. And the only difference between 60 and 70 is the sound S in the middle or the sound T in the middle. So your brain is making that sound change in the middle of the word. It is harder than it looks. 174. ¿Cómo se dice 174?
Go ahead.
Oh, no, you go.
174.
174. They give us 177, 179. 179, Pat?
179.
Perfecto. Then we get 180. Everybody likes 80 because people hardly ever get 80 wrong. 80 is easy, right? It looks so much like ocho. So 80, 80, 80. Now 181.
181.
Excelente. Okay. 183.
183.
Y 383. We move up to 190. And notice the nueve, the UE, goes into a shorter sound. The UE shortens down to just an O by itself. 190, 90, okay? ¿Cómo se dice 192?
192.
Perfecto. ¿Cómo se dice 199?
199.
Perfecto. Bien. Okay. So I'm going to want you for prep work, for practice, just like you did the answer only for the math problem. I will want you to record the answer only for the math problems. Some of them are plus, some of them are minus. And the way you would hear the math problem, by the way, it would sound like this. 100 más. 100 más. Más means more. Más means more. And the plus sign as a math thing, they say as the word more. 100 más 35 son 135. Okay, so only give me the answer when you do the recording. Vale, bien. I am going to also give you to practice a number sheet that will look like that one, except it'll have some higher hundreds numbers, okay? So you'll have that to practice with. We're gonna do a little dictado so we can get into some of our other stuff. We're gonna do a little dictado, so grab something to write with. Crummy old piece of paper, doesn't have to be anything at all. Your grocery list is left over, whatever, lo que sea, whatever it may be, lo que sea, whatever it is. No importa, does not matter. I will give you some hundreds numbers. And I will just say the number, see if you can write down the digit, and then we'll check. And I'll say each number 3 times because, you know, that's kind of what it takes. Okay. Número uno, number one, número uno, 192. 192. Now, here's how you're really going to hear somebody say it if they said it to you normal speed. 192. I'll leave the fast one for the end. Número dos. 134. 134. And normal speed, it'll sound like this. 134. Número 3. 161. 161. And here's normal speed. 161. Okay. Número 4. 185. 185. Here's normal speed. 185. Número 5. Number 5. 188. Perdón. I got that wrong. I don't know what my brain fart was doing here. 148. 148. Here's normal speed. 148. Okay. Number 6. 127. 127. Here's normal speed. 127. 127. Okay? Okay. Número 7. Number 7. 100. 173. 173. Here's normal speed. 173. Okay. Número 8. Número 8, number 8. Número 8. 115. 115. Here's normal speed. 115. Okay. Número 9. Número 9. 105. 105. 105. Okay. Y número 10. Número 10. El último. The last one. El último. 156. 156. And here's normal speed, 156. Bien. Okay. I'm going to give you a share screen so you can see how many you got right. We're shooting for getting at least 7 out of 10 right. There are the numbers. Gee, there they go. Our goal is to try to get 7 out of 10. Como lo mínimo, lo mínimo. We're going to come back to some of these double-digit numbers in a bit once we start to talk more verbs. Because when you start to talk about how old people are, we're going to need, well, not the hundreds, but the double-digit numbers for sure. So we'll kind of review those a little bit too in a different way once we get to talking about age. Okay, you know, we use numbers for so many things, for addresses, for ages, for prices. We're talking about how many blocks you need to walk to get to a destination, all kinds of reasons. Okay, a ver. We're going to talk a little bit about this verb. Perdón, I'm sorry. Let me stop for a moment. Before we leave numbers, before we leave the realm of numbers, you'll get some higher, we're going to get some higher numbers soon. You're going to get those for homework, a little page. Do you have any questions on these number issues before we leave that to move on to ser? Ser and estar. Ser and estar is kind of a big topic. It's a topic that kind of scares people a little bit, but don't let it scare you. Okay. We're going to backtrack just a little bit. We're going to take a look at, well, not backtrack really, but review. Which form of the verb you use in Spanish entirely depends on who you're talking about. And with these verbs of being, like to be, it's a little more problematic than saying a verb like cook or eat or drink, because obviously a human being is doing something if you're talking about eating or drawing or writing or cooking, right? I cook, you cook, we cook, but for to be, you know, I am, you are, he is. It's not a verb of action, is it? So what we need to remember is that all verbs, whether it's ser or estar or tener or any verb at all, they'll always fall into this grid kind of pattern, because whoever does the action, that determines which verb form you're going to use, okay? So it's always going to be yo, singular, I, or nosotros, we, meaning I'm in a group. Other people are with me. So yo and nosotros are always called first person. First person singular and first person plural, okay? Meaning I've got more than one person in the group. Tú, meaning you're addressing somebody directly in a familiar way. You're calling them, talking to them on a first name basis, okay? You're either calling them by their first name, or they're a kid that you're talking to, a little kid, or they're a friend or a family member. But it's, you know, it's a one you situation, and that's a big deal in Spanish because there's more than one way to express you. We call that second person. Vosotros, the plural of tú, meaning you guys, but in a friendly way, is only used in Spain. So we kind of do that in a cursory way because most people are communicating with folks from Latin America. Latin America never uses vosotros, but vosotros always gets a special verb form, and most of us in this hemisphere won't need to use that. Third person is what we call, when we're talking about one person, just a single human being or a single thing. And that's usually represented by él, he, ella, she, or usted, you. I know, you, wow, that really is second person, but usted uses the same verb that él uses. It uses the same verb that ella uses. It's always grouped that way, even though it means you. And usted, again, is the you we use. It's the formal you. It's the you we use for somebody we address by their last name in a polite way in a business setting. Okay. So it's a single human being, and it's just one of them, right? But third person plural is this last category, this last segment of the grid. And we represent that with ellos, they do the action, or ella, if it's only a all feminine group, they're doing the action, or ustedes. Here is the you plural that's used in all of Latin America, not vosotros, but ustedes. And just like usted groups itself with él and ella and uses the same verbs, ustedes groups itself with ellos and ellas and uses the same verbs, okay? So for ser, here are the verb forms we need for ser. Soy, I am. Eres, you are. Es, for he is or she is, or you formal are. Somos, for we are. I have people with me. I have somebody or a bunch of people with me. Soy, so only if you're in Spain, so we're going to gloss over that. And son, for they are, or you guys are. Ustedes son, ellos son. Okay.
Marilyn, in Spain, do they use ustedes?
They do use ustedes. They do if, okay, I'll give you an example. If a guy, you go to un mercado, you go to a market or a store, and the man in the store is servicing two people, right? Like, let's say a couple is looking at engagement rings, or there are two of you together, you're buying a bunch of seafood at an open air food market. If there are two of you, he'll address you as if you are ustedes, because he doesn't know you by your first name, and he'll be polite with you because it's a business setting. So they will use ustedes. When they use this sois business in Spain is when you're talking to a group of friends. If, let's say you're in a tour group and this tour guide, because this happens, the tour guide is talking to a big group of 15 people, and he wants to say, come along here, please. Pasen, pasen, pasen por aquí. He's going to talk to you as if you were ustedes. But if that tour guide is hanging with you in Spain for a bunch of multiple days, and he knows you by your first name, he'll switch over to the familiar you. That's how that works. So for Latin America, they'll never, never, never use this. Nobody in Latin America uses this vosotros thing, ever. They're in fact annoyed by it. They know what it is. They know some of them. They don't bother to learn a lot of them. So what people wind up using in Latin America is this form for ustedes, because you guys plural is only ustedes in Latin America, Mexico. That's all it is. That's all they use for plural you. Okay, Bien. I want you to notice something. Mos is always a tag-on ending for verb forms when we talk about we, when I'm in a group. And N always winds up being the last sound on a verb form when I'm talking about a bunch of people. Or to say you guys, okay? That's gonna be consistent throughout, no matter what the verb is. No matter what the verb is. Okay, let's see if we can match up the form of ser with the human being we're talking about, okay? And this is a little, we have to give you a cue. So whereas, let me switch back. Whereas these things, you notice how I've got parentheses? People don't bother to say yo. Not a lot. You'll only hear soy. You'll only hear the verb. They won't bother to say nosotros a lot of the time. You'll only hear the verb itself, somos. People won't bother to say tú. You'll only hear this eres most of the time. People won't bother with yo, tú, nosotros. They'll cut that out. In English, you can't say am. Am tall. Nobody says that. We have to say I am tall. In Spanish, they don't bother with the I most of the time. They don't bother. They don't bother with the you a lot of the time. Even if the you is usted, they don't bother with it. They just say the verb. Because if they're looking at you, eyeball contact, and talking to you, they'll skip that word usted. They'll even skip the usted. I mean, it's just what they do, okay? The verb in Spanish tells the whole story. One verb matches up only with one, it can only match up with possibly one human being. This can only match up with one possible human being. Ooh, this one might match up with a guy, a gal, or usted. So they might include the pronoun with that verb es. They might include that pronoun with the verb son. But somos only matches up with one human being. So they don't bother with the nosotros most of the time. They can say it, but they just don't bother with it most of the time. Okay, so let's take a look at these. This is going to be a little bit unnatural in that we have to give you a cue. And that cue in most conversations will be missing most of the time. Okay, let's take a look. If Carmen is a Spanish gal, ¿cómo se dice Carmen is Spanish?
Es.
Es. Es española. And it's very common. You got Carmen there because I have to know who I'm talking about. But es española will be a very, very natural. Es española. Es alemana. She's German. Es francesa. She's French. Es mexicana. She's Mexican. Es peruana. She's from Peru. Okay, bien. Julio y Hernando, they're Argentine. Son argentinos. That's all you need to have a complete sentence. Son argentinos. Son argentinos. I'm using the origin, where they're from, Q. And nosotros is only here for a Q. ¿Cómo se dice we're Italian?
Nosotros somos italianos.
Somos italianos. And most of the time, they're going to skip that word nosotros. It's there as your cue only. Somos italianos. Somos italianos. Okay. And somebody asks, are you guys Italian too? Ustedes también means also. Ustedes también. ¿Cuál es el verbo?
Is that son again?
Son again, son. Ustedes también son italianos. Just like Julio y Hernando son argentinos, ustedes son italianos. Ustedes son italianos. Okay. We want to say, no, we're not Italian, we're German. Nosotros no. Somos italianos. We're not Italian. We're German. Somos alemanes. Somos alemanes. And notice to say we're not, in English, we say we are not. You're going to flip the not in front of the verb. So it's no somos. Not we are. And that's uniform. If you want to say we're not cooking, we're not talking, we're not driving, we're not speaking, the not part is always the word no. And the word no always comes in front of the verb. Okay? The no in front of the verb makes it a negative expression. Okay. And we have in parentheses a yo in number 6. Hola.
Soy Pedro.
Soy Pedro. Soy Pedro. Soy Pedro. We're going to skip the vosotras. It would be sois. Para que sepan. Just so you know, it would be sois. Are you Mr. Gonzalez? I'm going to make that tad smaller. Okay. Are you Mr. Gonzalez?
Es
usted?
Es usted. ¿Es usted el señor González? ¿Es usted, señor González? Is you Mr. González? Literally, that's the word order. Is you Mr. González? ¿Es usted el señor González? And the Mr. González. Okay. They may even skip. It is okay to skip the word usted in that question. But es usted. Okay. Las amigas de Miguel. Mike's friends. And they're all gals because it's las amigas. Mikey's friends. They're all women. Son peluqueras. They cut this thing. What do they do for a living?
Is it son again?
Son again. Las amigas de Miguel son peluqueras. They're hairdressers. Peluqueras are ladies who fix up hair. Peluqueras. Las amigas de Miguel. We're talking about friends, ladies. De Miguel just tells who's friends. When we say like an apostrophe S, Mike's car, Mike's dog, Mike's kids. The way you say Mike's apostrophe S, there is no apostrophe S in Spanish. It becomes de Miguel, of Mike. Okay. So apostrophe S to show possession is de with the name of that person. El carro de Miguel, Mike's car. Los hijos de Miguel, Mike's kids. La esposa de Miguel, Mike's wife. That's the way that works. Oh, somebody asks, where are you from? ¿De dónde?
Eres.
¿De dónde eres? And that's all you need. ¿De dónde eres? But if they need to be polite, they don't call you by your first name. They'll ask, where are you from this way? ¿De dónde?
Yes.
Es usted. ¿De dónde? From where?
Do you put the usted in?
They will put they often will put the usted in. They may drop the usted. ¿De dónde es is okay. Dropping the usted is possible. ¿De dónde es? If I'm looking straight at you and asking, ¿de dónde es? The usted might be implied. but not spoken. Can't do that in French. Can't do that in German. Can't do that in English. Can't do that in Spanish.
What is the translation of donde?
Donde means where. We're going to take a look at these question words very shortly. De
So it's really
donde.
Of where? Is that?
De means either, de has two translations. De can mean from, it can mean of. Whether it means of or from depends on the context. Here the context is from where are you? Mm-hmm. Right? De donde. Here the context is of Mike. Las amigas de Miguel, the friends of Mike. We would never say the friends of Mike. You would know what it means if somebody said that in English, but it's not the way we ever say it. The friends of Mike, the children of Mike. Nobody says that. Mike's apostrophe S. We don't have apostrophe S. So we have de Miguel, of Mike. De donde, from where. Here it means from. De donde eres. De donde es. De donde, where are you guys from? If two of you are standing there with somebody, right? They're talking to both of you. Where are you from? De donde son. And they may skip the word ustedes if they're looking straight at you. De donde son? Where are you from? They may include the ustedes. De donde son ustedes? People will they'll say ustedes or skip it, whatever they feel like. You never know what somebody's going to say. De donde son? De donde son ustedes? They're both correct. Okay. 13. We're looking at Javier. Javier is the name of a guy, Xavier. Javier. Javier es. Ingeniero means an engineer. Javier es ingeniero. Okay. I am a Spanish student. Yo?
Soy.
And people will normally skip that word yo. Soy estudiante. Soy estudiante. Jorge y yo. Jorge y yo. Anytime I tag on y yo, I automatically turn it into nosotros format. Jorge y yo somos. Bien? So, anytime I tag on y yo, automatically it kicks into nosotros land. Somos. I could say somos de, we're from. Somos de Arizona. Somos de Estados Unidos. Somos estadounidenses. We are US citizens. Okay, I can do that. What I want to show you now are ways that we use ser. Okay, I want you to hear all the different ways we use ser. We use ser to talk about nationality, where somebody's from, what they do for a living, what they physically look like, because hard to change what you physically look like. If you're tall, you're tall. If you're blonde, you're blonde. Okay, you can dye your hair, but does that take a fair amount of effort and some time? Yeah. And you're born with one kind of hair, even if you dye it. Okay, so you get the idea. What the person is really personality-wise always like, always, all the time, generally, is ser. What they look like, that's ser. Where they're from, because I can't change where you're from, is ser. what they do for a living, because that's kind of a constant. Okay, that's ser. Let's talk about these famous people. I want you to see how es and son work. I can't use yo because I'm not this gal and I'm sure not George Clooney. So I can't use the yo form. I can only use the es or the son. I can talk about just him, just her, or both of them as a couple. So let's take a look at what's below this. I'm going to try and make this a little bit bigger. Un poquito más grande. Okay. If I talk just about George Clooney, I can say es norteamericano. He's a US citizen. Es norteamericano. Es un hombre norteamericano. He's a male who's a US guy, okay? Here's a different word for norteamericano. And actually this word is more common than norteamericano. And people don't like it because it's a long word, but it is what they use. Es estadounidense. And I've got that word split up because to learn to say the word estadounidense, you need to break that into 2 units. Es estadounidense. That comes from estados, states, unidos, united. And it becomes the word for US citizen. Estadounidense. Break it into 2 parts. Estadounidense. Es estadounidense. Es canoso. He's gray. He's got gray hair. Es canoso. That's the way they say gray-haired. Es atractivo. Most people consider him as attractive. Oh, now I'm going to say he has a beard. I can't say he is a beard because he's not a beard, but he has a beard. Here's the word for he has, tiene. Tiene una barba. He has a beard. Tiene una barba. Tiene una barba. Okay. Now I'm going to start to mix talking about the 2 of them together. Son, I'm looking at the right, a la derecha. Son Jorge Clooney y su esposa Amal. They are George Clooney and his wife Amal. Okay. Son famosos. They're famous. Son famosos. They're famous. Amal es I got nothing there. That won't work. Amal es bella. She's beautiful. Amal es bella. That's kind of permanent characteristic. She's just, you know, kind of drop dead gorgeous. Okay. Es bella. Oh, now I can't say she is hair. She has hair. Tiene, she has. Tiene el pelo marrón. I could also say es morena. Es morena. Morena is brunette. So let's make this a little bit easier. Es morena. She's brunette. Es morena. Tiene, she has eyes of this color. Tiene los ojos cafés. Some people like to use cafés for brown. Some people like to use marrones. It's a regional thing. Cafés is very popular in Mexico. Marrones, some parts of Latin America, they prefer to say marrones for brown. Depends on where you come from. Tiene los ojos cafés, or I can say tiene los ojos marrones. Es delgada. She's delgada. No. She's thin. Es delgada. Es delgada. She's thin. It's just what she looks like. Es inteligente. She is now personality. Es inteligente. ¿Por qué? Because. ¿Por qué? Because es abogada, because she's a lawyer. Es inteligente porque es abogada. She's intelligent, personality, porque es abogada. She's a lawyer. What's what she does for a living. Ella es lista. She is clever. Jorge es actor. George is an actor. Here's what he does for a living. Es actor. Es muy famoso. He's very famous. Porque es actor, es muy famoso. Because he's an actor, he's very famous. You can see how we use es, right? Es or son. Es if I talk only about Jorge. Es if I talk only about Amal. But son if I talk about them together. Bien? ¿Sí?
Bien.
Okay. Bien. If I talk only about this lady, Sofia Vergara, I can combine lots of things to talk about Sofia Vergara. Se llama, her name is. I could also say es, she is. I can say either term. Se llama Sofia Vergara. Se llama Sofia Vergara. Es colombiana. She's Colombian. Es delgada. She's thin. Es muy cómica. Es muy graciosa. She's a funny person. Es actriz en un programa de la televisión. She's an actress on a TV show. Bien? I talk about what she does for a living. Es. Okay. Por ejemplo, se llama Salma Hayek. Es mexicana. I can drop the ella, but ella, she. Ella es, so that you pair it up with the es. Ella es mexicana. Es de México. She's from Mexico. Es de México. Es mexicana, es de México. There are two different ways of talking about the same information. Okay. She is Mexican, nationality, from Mexico. Formerly the word from, de México. Es morena. She's brunette. Es actriz. She's an actress. Oh, now I'm going to bring in a different verb. If I want to talk about where she is right now, where she's located right now, I have to switch to a different verb. And that verb is está. Está means somebody is located somewhere. Ella está en Los Ángeles. Está en el estudio. She's in Los Angeles. She's in the studio. Está con el director de su película. All those phrases talk about where she is located. To talk about location, you cannot use ser. To talk about location, you must use a different verb, estar. And the best way to see that is with examples. Okay. If I want to say she has kids, I can't use es or está. I have to have tiene, she has. Okay. Tiene dos hijos. Tiene un esposo muy rico. She's got a really rich husband. Es millonario. He is a millionaire. Es millonario. El esposo de Salma. Salma's, apostrophe S. I can't use apostrophe S. El esposo de Salma. The husband of Salma. We would never say it that way in English. El esposo de Salma es de Francia. He's from France. Él es un francés muy rico. He's a very rich French guy. Es un francés muy rico. He's a very rich French guy. Okay. A ver. Let's leave that for a moment. Ser and estar. Let's take a look at forms of estar and why we want to know that. This is not ser, this is estar. Estar also means to be. So sadly, in Spanish, there are two verbs that mean to be, but we use them in different situations to talk about different things, different contexts. Estar gets different forms. So let me boil this down. Oh, do I have my little phrase here? Yeah. Estar is used to express location, where somebody or something is. I want to say they're in the city, they're in the bathroom, they are next to me, they are close to me, they are far from me. They're in Europe, they're in Canada, they're in Tucson. They're in the house next door. They're in school. They're in the office, all locations. They're in front of me, still a location. They're behind me. These guys, they're with me, still a location. Anything that talks about location uses estar. Okay, that's uniform. Estar also talks about conditions that may easily change. And the way to think of this, what I want to give you, instead of like a whole lot of rules, because I could give you a whole lot of rules, is that for how you feel or where you are, always use the verb estar. For how you feel or where you are, always use the verb estar. It's a stupid rhyme, but this gives you a 50-50 situation. How you feel, where you are, always use the verb estar. If it doesn't obey that little rhyme, it's ser. It's the other one. You follow what I'm saying? If it follows a little rhyme, the dumb rhyme, use estar. Otherwise, it's ser. It's the other one, okay? ¿Cómo estás? Asks you how you are. It's asking how you feel. So anything that talks about your health or your emotions is estar. And anything that talks about location is estar. And if it doesn't fall into those categories, it's ser. Okay, so the question, ¿Cómo estás? How you doing? Estoy bien. ¿Estás nervioso? Do you feel nervous? Ah, no, no estoy nerviosa. No estoy nerviosa. I'm not nervous. ¿Están ustedes en casa? I'm asking you if you're at home. ¿Están ustedes en casa? Are you at home? Location. Those are estar. Okay. Let's look, just as ser gets a bunch of different forms, estar gets a bunch of different forms. And the form depends on who I'm talking about. If I'm talking about yo, it's estoy. Estar is what we call an irregular verb. You're going to see soon-ish that some verbs are what they call regular, meaning they'll follow a pattern. Ser does not follow a pattern. Estar does not follow a strict pattern. Estoy, I am. Estás, you are. Notice eres ended in an S sound. Estás also ends in an S sound. This is going to be a consistent thing with verbs, no matter what the verb is. If I want to talk about he is or she is or you, formal, are, instead of es, as we had with ser, it'll be está. Está. And that little accent there on the a means you punch that a harder. That's all it means. The a always sounds like a. It's just a question of, it's not estas, it's estás. We punch the as part harder, okay? We put more stress in our voice on it. Estás, está, okay? The nosotros form, yo with somebody else with me, estamos. And notice that most is always going to indicate a we verb, a we verb. Estamos, we are. Estáis is what they use in Spain for vosotros, the plural of tú, but we're going to skip over that. To say you guys, ustedes, in all of Latin America, always, and to talk about more than one human being, ellos or ellas, it's están. And notice again, anytime you hear a na at the end of a verb, it means they're doing it, verb. Están, that's consistent all the time, okay? So, estoy, estás, está, estamos, estáis for people who are just in Spain, and están, okay? Bien? These are the forms, and sadly, these don't follow a nice pattern, so they have to be memorized. Although you can say, just like soy ends in an oy, estoy ends in an oy. Okay, so if that helps you remember it, go for it, whatever helps you remember it. Okay? So we use estoy, estás, está, estamos, están to talk about how people feel, health and emotion, or where they're located. Okay? Yeah? Let's see if we can match up which form of estar fits with the human beings you see on the left-hand side. Mi padre. If I want to say my dad's home. And here are all of our bold figure things. Están, estás, estamos, está, está, están. Wow, we're going to mix them all up. Which verb am I going to use to talk about dad is someplace?
Está.
Está. So, bien, muy bien. Aquí está only fits up with talking about one person, right? Correcto. This does not easily let me move it. Okay, tú, you are in a place.
Estás.
Estás, perfecto, estás. It gets an S sound at the end. Mis amigos.
Está.
Están. Perfecto. Mis amigos están. Okay. My mom and I.
Estamos.
Estamos. Estamos. And we emphasize that part of the word a little bit more. Estamos. 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 Bien. Okay. You guys are.
Están.
Están. Perfecto. Están. Están. you are, but shift that a little bit. You are, but one you, and a formal you.
Está.
Está. We've only got that left. So, okay, that one wasn't a real brain buster, was it? There we go. Usted está. So, oh, if you want to ask, is somebody at home? You knock on the door or you call on the phone. Oh, is Mike home? ¿Está Miguel? Because it's asking about location, right? You knock on the door. Your friend's wife answers his door. You want to ask, is John home? ¿Está Juan? Bien. You call on the phone to a house. Well, we don't have too many landlines anymore, do we? But you call into an office and you want to say, is the doctor in? ¿Está el doctor? ¿Está el doctor? ¿Está el doctor? Is the doctor there? Bien, okay, get the idea? Here are some other ways I might use estar. I might talk about how my dad feels. Mi padre está contento. My dad is happy. I might say, wow, you're well, you're looking well. Estás bien. Estás bien, no? Hey, you're feeling well, aren't you? Estás bien, no? I want to say maybe my friends they're ready. They're ready to go. Mis amigos están listos. Están listos. Listos, they're ready. It's a temporary changeable thing. You might be ready, you might be not. My mom and I are in the store. Estamos en la tienda. Estamos en la tienda. We're in the store. Ustedes están enfermos. Wow, you guys are sick. Enfermos is a state of health. Health is very changeable. Ustedes están enfermos, right? Usted está aquí. You are here. Está aquí. You're here. That's all that means. Está aquí. Bien? Okay? Bien? I am going to give you, just as I gave you a little page, fill in the blank thing with numbers, I'm going to give you a little fill in the blank thing with estar for you to practice if you can match up the right form of estar with the right human being that it talks about. Bien? Okay. So I will send that your way. I will also send you this video that shows you how we use estar. And they're going to lean heavier on the yo and the nosotros forms. So you're going to hear more estoy and more estamos forms probably than the others. But they're going to talk about emotions and feelings and locations. Okay? They're going to show you that. So when you hear people talking about permanent and temporary, estar tends to fall more into that temporary category. And ser tends to fall more into that permanent category. But be careful, cuidado, be careful with that, because mentally, I can tell you that mentally, some people in English tend to confuse whether a description is temporary or permanent, and they tend to overthink it. We tend to overthink that. So if you boil it down to, for how you feel and where you are, always use the verb estar. How you feel takes in health and emotion. and location. That's estar. If it's not that, it's ser. Okay? So I will give you this, this little video to watch, and it'll talk about a lot of examples, a lot of contexts. So that is best done on your time. We're going to take one more example of this together with one more famous person, El Papa, the Pope. He's a famous guy. You may like him, you may not like him. It doesn't matter if you like him or you don't like him. Yeah, we're going to talk about him. Everybody knows who he is. Okay. El Papa Francisco, Pope Francis. Él es, and I couldn't get why did I not get my accent mark to fit in? Okay. Él es el Papa Francisco. I'm going to get rid of my L altogether because I can do that. Es el Papa Francisco. He is Pope Francis. Él es el jefe de los católicos. He is the boss guy of all the Catholics. He's the upper tier guy. Es el jefe, the boss, the top man. Okay? Él es un hombre religioso. He is a religious man. That is a permanent description. He's just always religious. Él es un hombre religioso. Él es bajo. He's kind of short. Él es de la Argentina. He's from Argentina. Él es argentino. He's Argentine. Él está en Italia. He's in Italy. Está en Roma. He's in Rome. Está en la sala de su palacio. He's in the great room, living room, the salon, el salón of his palace. Él está en la sala. He's in this room. Está muy contento. He is happy. Es muy amable. He's very kind. People overthink kind. Ooh, is that permanent or temporary? It's a personality trait. So it's sad. Es muy amable. Amable, kind, is not a way he feels, it's the way he acts. Okay? Contento, happy. Happy means how he feels. So it's a star category. Yeah? Okay? Yeah? Kind of get the idea?
Yeah.
And I will send you off with a video to talk about that. For tarea, homework. We're also, well, I want to pause here and see if you have a question about any of that. Do you have any questions about ser and estar? It's a big topic, but keep it down to kind of black and white. How you feel and where you are, always use the verb estar. If it doesn't fall into the rhyme, it's the other one, it's ser. Okay? And that becomes easier with the more examples you see, which is why I will send you off with a video to watch about that, because the more examples you see and hear, the easier it will become. Okay. Bien. We're going to throw one other verb in here, just very, very briefly, because you're going to start to see it. Here it is. You're going to start to see this when you're in chapter 4, because they start to talk about a house. Oh, that I have a house, that I have 3 bathrooms, that I have 4 bedrooms, that the house has a basement or the house has an attic. So we now need to introduce one new verb, and that verb is tener. Tener means to have, as in ownership. Not the have, as in I have eaten, I have already eaten. It's not that have. That's a different verb, have. Have as in own a thing, or have people in my family, or have clothing, have, you know, ownership, tener, to have. And just as ser and estar get different forms for whoever we're talking about, tener gets different forms for whoever we're talking about. So you're going to already start to see this in chapter 4 in the book, right? And the forms are going to be this, and it is a highly irregular verb. Sadly, the most common verbs we use every day, all the time, and we use have all the time in English in any language. They always wind up being irregular in many, many different languages. But the form for yo is tengo. Tengo. Look at that. A G came out. Wow. Tener, the infinitive it comes from, doesn't have any G, but there's a G in the yo form. Why? I can't tell you why. It just is there. Tengo. Tengo. But o is a common ending for yo verbs, just so that you know. Many, many verbs, most verbs, the vast majority of verbs that say I'm doing this have an o at the end of them. They will. And that o is not a masculine, feminine thing. It's a verb thing. That means, yo, I'm doing it. Tengo, I have. Tengo. Tengo un micrófono. Tengo lentes. Tengo el pelo marrón. Tengo el pelo marrón. Tengo una pluma negra. Tengo muchos papeles. Tengo un periódico. Tengo, I have. But if you have, it is no longer tengo. It becomes tienes. Tienes. And if he or she has, if you talk about one human being, or usted, because they all share the same kind of verb, we get rid of the S on tienes and it becomes just tiene. And if I add somebody to yo, if I have somebody with me, it's tenemos. Vosotros is tenéis, we'll skip over that. And if they have, then it's ellos tienen, or ellas tienen, or ustedes tienen. Okay. And you'll notice tienen looks like tiene, looks like tienes. Yeah, instead of an S at the end, instead of ending in a vowel, we tag an N onto the end. And now it becomes they have. So what you're going to start to notice is that the verb I, there are, the verb ser, the verb estar, and the verb tener are all going to start to coalesce when we start to talk about things like la casa in chapter 4, because I can say there are 4 bedrooms, or I have 4 bedrooms, or the house has 4 bedrooms, right? I can say I have brown hair, or I can say I am kind of tall, or I can say I feel great today. And all those verbs are going to start to mix. So it'll be really, really important to start to know this verb tener as well. You'll start to hear it morph into different things. I'm going to have kind of a heavy duty. I don't mean for this page. We're going to, so shortly, next week, we're going to start to talk about describing what's in rooms, identifying what rooms in a house are, Yeah. And talking about what kind of furniture they have, and what color they are, and all that kind of stuff, and you know, all that kind of stuff. So we're going to start to build on vocabulario, la casa. And in order to do that, I am going to send you links. Oh, and you're going to see here, la casa. We might combine all these different verbs, I and tiene and está, because something might be on second floor or it might be on first floor, and es en son. So what I'm going to give you to kind of prep for that are 2 videos, and they're going to combine vocabulary and grammar. But they kind of, well, you'll see how they're different. Some give you different vocabulary. Rooms and parts of the house. This video here is going to talk about different things. They're going to talk about what floors different rooms are in, okay? And this will also give you extra vocabulary about the house and furniture in the house. So rooms, floors in the house, furniture in the house. That's what they're going to talk about with these videos. And then when we come together next week, we're going to start to talk about these rooms. Okay? We're going to start to describe what kind of stuff is in the rooms, or what is this room in the first place. Okay? So we're going to focus on that. We'll talk a little more about numbers, but when we talk about numbers, we're going to talk more in the hundreds realm. We'll practice with that a little bit, because those hundreds numbers. So we'll kind of change gears a little bit. We'll talk about the hundreds numbers, and I will be giving you a little page that will look at the hundreds numbers. As a matter of fact, I need to find that. Perdón. Real quickly. Uy, ¿dónde está? Where'd it go? Yeah, okay, momentito. Quick moment. I'm gonna give you this for checking it out, and we'll do some practice with this together, because the pronunciation on these hundreds numbers may take a little bit of work for us all together. I'm not gonna ask you to speak these numbers on recording yet, because they take a little more work, right? But we're going to look at putting these together. 200, 300. Literally, you're going to say 200s, 300s, 400s. And then we've got a funky, weird number that breaks a pattern for 500s. But you're going to see that the hundreds follow a pattern. So here's how they'll sound. This is what I want to leave you with before we go off. They're going to sound like this: 200, 300, 400, 500. There's the tough one. That's why it's in bold. 600, 700, 800, 900, 900s. And then we go up to 1,000. Do not worry about this middle column with feminine forms. Yes, it's possible to use the feminine forms for numbers. If I say, wow, this is a meeting of 500 business women, I may need that word 500. But when you're talking about prices and dollars, it's always going to be the masculine form. So kind of be aware that that feminine form is out there, but we're not going to use it really all that much. We're going to use what you see as the masculine forms way more, way more. So I'll kind of ask you to start looking at these hundreds, and thousands. Don't get into the weeds of millions and billions because we don't really need that. For talking about prices, you need hundreds. You might need thousands, but you generally don't need to get into the whole, you know, millón thing. Know that it's there. It sounds like an English word, but you don't need to use it a lot. So just be familiar with this and we'll practice it more next week. Make sense? See? Bien? Vale? So it's going to be a lot of vocabulary stuff and some videos. Get familiar with la casa and with estar. Bien? Vale. Not beyond chapter 4. You may want to, you know, check through parts of chapter 4 a little bit more, but we'll practice a lot more when we get back together. ¿Está bien? ¿Hay alguna pregunta? Any question before we leave for today?
Oh, I just have a question, but it can wait till after class.
You sure? Okay. Vale.